Four Noble Truths is essential. Everybody should know Four Noble Truths. And if you get the Four Noble Truths from an inside-out perspective, then you can always help another person using the Four Noble Truths. It's what is the real medicine. It's the Buddha's first teaching after his enlightenment. His deep seeing or knowing the nature of reality. That's enlightenment. Finally discovering who he was and what it's all about. That's enlightenment. And then he delivers this teaching on the Four Noble Truths, which is basically a science. It's not a religious dogma. It's something that everybody can understand from their own perspective and use immediately, readily in their own life. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the Four Noble Truths, and as I go along, then maybe we can do some little meditations between them, if that's okay. First Noble Truth is the truth of suffering. It's the reason that everybody's here, whether you are conscious of it or not. If you're doing some sort of Dharma practice, if you're doing some sort of spiritual inquiry, you're doing it because things are not working out for you on some level. You're looking for something. This is a whole room of seekers that have taken time out of the busy day, the production work wheel, to actually have the inquiry that something in my life is not working well, that something is missing. That feeling of something is missing, I had that when I was 16 years old. I was very keenly aware that something was completely missing in my life, and everything that I was surrounded by was not cutting it. And if you're feeling that, that's a good thing. You're in the right place. Things aren't working out. Things are crazy, ridiculous, meaningless. We're killing each other. Unbelievable. Destroying ourselves and others. And it's painful. It's painful to be in this body, and it's painful to be in this mind. And so you're seeking relief. What's called reliable refuge in something that actually works, not something that's promised that doesn't deliver. Well, probably what took you to this point is seeking and finding so many alternatives and pitches and them not working out. Our modern consumerist culture has made a lot of pitches and empty promises about what's going to deliver on sanity and happiness. The first noble truth is an acknowledgement of our current predicament. It demands bravery, it demands courage to be able to stare nakedly at your situation and realize I'm in pain, I'm not where I want to be. My life isn't working out. The things that the bill of goods that I was sold isn't working out. I have the job, I have the family, I have the money, I have the freedom, so-called, reasonably, we have to consider if we really have that, and it's still not enough. There are three types of suffering to consider. There is the suffering that is ordinary suffering, birth, old age, sickness, and death. All painful. Birth, old age, sickness, and death. Being parted from loved ones. Having to face unloved ones. All difficult, challenging. All what are called ordinary suffering. Second type of suffering is called the suffering of change. That's the suffering that happens when just at the cusp of the thing that you finally grasp and enjoy, just at the cusp of it when it's seeping like sand out of your hands. The last day of the vacation before going to work. Maybe you feel it on Sunday. Just eking out of your hands, the last bite of the thing that you like, just before it ends. Think about it, every moment of satisfaction has never lasted. Anything good that you have ever experienced ended. And has left you feeling empty or sad or wanting more. And that is the suffering of change. And the final kind of suffering is the one that's most pertinent for our discussion. It's called all-pervasive suffering. All-pervasive suffering, you can see from the title, all-pervasive means that it's rooted in the fabric of our existence. All-pervasive means wherever we go with a contaminated mind and body is bound to produce suffering. Contaminated mind and body is a verbiage from the traditional text. One of my teachers likes to just say we have a mind that's driven by stress and trauma instincts. As long as we have a mind and body that's conditioned by stress and trauma, we are bound to suffer. That is the deepest predicament. That's the deepest level that we can go to. As long as we have a mind and a body that is driven or compelled or pushed by stress instinct and unresolved trauma, we are bound to suffer. That is the first noble truth. It's just kind of like raw and ugly and nasty and brave to look at it. Believe me, most people are already tuned out in this room. They're like, I didn't sign up for this. I came for some peaceful meditation. Oh my God. This isn't what I came for. So for those people, I can recommend a nice movie for you. A soft blanket to cuddle up with, a nice hot shower, and your favorite meal. And all of those will provide you with the relief, the temporary relief that you're looking for. And by all means, each and every one of us should have a list of 5 things that help us soothe and regulate. By all means. We should have all kinds of ways to reduce stress and to relax and to feel calm and safe. We should most definitely have that. But it's not far-reaching enough. It's not going to cut it long term. You can use your mindfulness for a stress reduction technique, and you're going to have temporary results when in fact mindfulness is grounded in a psychology of liberation. Mindfulness is a technique embedded in an infrastructure that's designed to give you lasting peace and happiness. So why sell yourself short? Don't stop just at the first noble truth. Most people stop at the first noble truth and go, oh, the Buddhists, they're just consumed with suffering. Why do I have to deal with this? And I've got enough problems of my own. You go from the first noble truth to what's called the second noble truth, which actually is really valuable. It's when the psychology part really kicks in. Anybody can see the first noble truth. Just look at your life. Watch Fox News for 10 minutes. Any idiot can see the first noble truth. A yogi has courage to look deeply into the first noble truth to understand its causes. That's the difference. If you stay with it, maybe you have something to learn. The second noble truth is profound. As my work as a psychotherapist, this is the most precious teaching, is to sit an individual down and to have them understand that the nightmare of their life is self-created. That is extremely profound, because there's a little child in us that's kind of going, oh, mommy did it, Obama did it, it's somebody else's problem, it's somebody else's fault. And that is the most disenfranchising, disempowering thing that we could ever do to ourselves, is to think that our suffering is somebody else's creation. If you leave it into somebody else's hands, guess what? Yeah. You're sitting around waiting for them to act, them to change it. The other side of the extreme of the table is to imagine that there is no way to change it, that this is just what it is. We got what we got and there is no way to fix it. This ship is sinking and there is no way out. That's a view called nihilism, or randomness. That nothing is created or caused, no one created it, it's just a shitstorm on its own, it's just the way it is, and just eat shit and be merry. that's a huge problem too. And the Buddha went right in between those two extremes in his clear seeing the nature of reality. And he said, no, you're creating it. The nightmare that you're experiencing, the traumatic nightmare of your discombobulation, distraction, anxiety, addiction, is self-created. It has causes. And he drew a circle in the sand, and he linked 12 links of dependent origination to show how one thing leads to the next, which 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 produces suffering. 12 links are too much to understand. Let's do 3. From an erroneous viewpoint of the nature of yourself and reality comes disturbing emotions or afflictive emotions. Those afflictive emotions drive reactive actions. Those reactive actions seed themselves in your consciousness and further color your perception. So that the next moment of consciousness, reality is hitting you and being filtered through your perception. But your perception, which you believe to be the real reality, is just your perception of reality. We forget that. Your perception of reality is colored and contaminated. Based on your perception, you further react and you have difficult, disturbing emotions, and then again you act irrationally, survival-based instinct reaction mode. In that activity, you further wire your neurobiology and your perception, and around and around and around and around again. And the image of a wagon wheel in the mud is really pertinent here. A heavy wagon wheel circling in the mud creates a groove. 1 time round, 2 times round. By the 3rd time round, something's happening to the groove. It's getting deeper. The deeper we act, think, and say according to our stress and trauma, the more wired it becomes, the more automatic it becomes. The more automatic, the less control we have. The less control we have, the more we freak out. And that's our current state of affairs. And that's why we think there's no way out. This is just the way it is. It's always been like this. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. The groove. We're in the groove. We're in what's called the cycle of stress and trauma. So remember, it's perception, emotion, action, neurobiological wiring, which colors perception in a future moment, and around and around and around we go. And this is what the Buddha is teaching us, is take a look. Don't take for granted your perception of reality. That's a huge mistake. The things that are happening to us appear to us a certain way. It all looks like it's out there. We take it for granted. Well, that's the way I see it. That's the way it is. I guarantee you it's not the way it is. I guarantee you that there is a subjective backlog of experience that is meeting the current reality. Do you follow? Everybody in here has a whole backlog of experience that's informing and appraising and analyzing instantaneously the reality that's coming through. I call them data points. 10 people can be up here and you get the same information coming through, and you can get 10 interpretations. Where's the reality? Who's got the right reality? Who's got the truth? But we go, oh no, what we're seeing, that person was mean to me. They did that. How could they do that to me? And then anger arises. Retaliation. Without any space to consider that maybe the thing that we're seeing is just an appearance that's coming largely from the way that we have lived and experienced things in the past. Our current perception is filtered by expectation, emotion. What's the other ones? Expectation, emotion. There's one other one.
False conclusion.
No, this is from Siegel. You don't remember?
Memories.
Yes, thank you. That's right. Memories. Our perception in the moment is being conditioned and filtered by expectations, past memories, and emotions. You know the rose-colored glasses that you want to put on? Everybody wears rose-colored glasses. Or dark-tinted glasses, whatever the case. But you forget you're wearing glasses. So the reactive actions seed the next moment of perception. So in a way, we are creating our reality. We are creating our reality is the deepest, one of the deepest truths of Buddhism. We're creating ourselves. There was a BBC documentary several years ago called You Are What You Eat, in which a British film producer followed people that were stuffing themselves and completely obese. And they candid camera these people for a week following and cataloging an inventory of everything that they were stuffing their face with. And at the end, they bring them into a large hall, and they have a table there filled with all the items that they were eating. And can you imagine after a week what that table looks like when you're having a horrible binge every day? It's filled with disgusting things, harmful things. And you wonder, how does this person, get so enormous and so depressed and so lethargic and so can't even have a poo, so backed up and so unhappy? And then it just feeds on itself. More feeding, more soothing that way, more addiction that way, more alienation that way. That person is creating their body. And the Buddha understood that there was a psychological correlate to that we create our mind. We create our experience. We're dictating tomorrow's you today. That's the second noble truth. The fundamental thing that we have mistaken is who we think we are. That's the basement level. That's the deeper truth. Everybody now taken a little time to think about who you think you are. Beyond the persona that you're projecting to other people in the sense that you want them to see certain things, who do you secretly think you are? Who's the you that behind closed doors you want nobody to know about? The secret you. Take an inventory there. It probably goes something like this: I'm worthless, I'm unlovable, no one cares about me, the world is hostile and threatening. Some variation of that. And I do this all day long with people. And I have all kinds of this one and that one, young, old, woman, man, child, colors from all over the universe, and all boils down to this. I am unlovable. I am in peril. I am worthless. I am in danger. The world is threatening. Some variant of that. Secret like a thorn deep in the mind. Then covered over and concealed. Then overcompensated with a robust sense of self so that you can show how happy you are on Facebook. And how talented you are. And how many degrees you have. And how many books you've written. And how many sit-ups you can do. And how many children you can produce. And what schools they go to. And then look how happy I am. So from a very fragmented, traumatized, alienated, self-deprecating position, you get the overcompensation of life. Look what I want to be. Look what I want other people to see me. I wish I could do this or that so that I get the validation, love, attention that I need. And that marshals so much of our energy, doesn't it? The unbelievable amount of mental and physical energy it takes to sustain the image that we're projecting so that we avoid the vulnerability of being exposed for the person that we think we are. Do you follow? Yes. So the Buddhist contemplative method is to divest the energy from the overcompensation and to come closer to the wounding and the origin of the entire matrix of the problem, to spend enough time with the I'm not good enough in order to see this miraculous thing which appears in the third noble truth, which is that's not who you are. And that has never been who you are. And that's the third noble truth. That's the good news. You all can celebrate now. It's never been you. Every terrifying nightmare story and conjecture and prediction that you have about yourself has never been you. You're simply holding on to a traumatic story in your mind for dear life, because you'd rather hold on to something that's familiar than be exposed to the vastness of possibility that you really are. The third noble truth means that everything is open. Our basic nature is open. Then what happens is we constrict around the wounding and we overcompensate and get ourselves all bent out of shape. But the third noble truth is a positive reminder that at your basic nature is open, it's free. You could change, just like the planet, this city, this mind and body isn't fixed. If you work this mind and this body in a different direction, it can change. If you work this city in a different direction, it can change. If you work the planet in a different direction, it can change. Unbelievable message. But it's not enough to know that. Sounds compelling, yes? It's not enough to know it, because I have plenty of people, and I can see in my own life, even though I know it and I teach it, there's the hard truth, the hard reality of actually shifting it, of moving the mind in a different place, of reconnecting with original openness, of rewiring the mind so that it can actually live in the openness instead of the fear trauma. That's where you get the fourth noble truth. The how do I actually live from my openness of who I am, rather than live from the degenerate person I think I am. That fourth noble truth is called the path, the method. It has 8 spokes. Again, too many to cover, so we condense them into 3. There is the 3 trainings, or the 3 methods, or the 3 educations, adhishiksha. This is the profound contribution of Buddhism to the world. It's a science of how to change. And it has 3 different sections, but unfortunately in our country, we only emphasize one. Which one do you think it is? It's the one that you all signed up to do tonight, which we're not going to do very much of. Because you can all do that at home, and it's very rare to get the other 2. And it's very rare to see how they all 3 come together, and it's extremely rare to finally realize that it's all 3 are required in order to move your mind and body into a different place. If you just practice meditation, you get temporary relief because you calm down, everything, power of your mind develops, attention is sustained, it feels really pleasant, or should, or it can. But then you get up and you come back to this neurological mind-body process that's contaminated by fear and trauma. And the minute you don't get a text message that you're expecting from someone that you love, you freak out. So you have to rewire. The first training is a training in wisdom. It's the training of analysis. It's a cognitive training, cerebral training at first. Then it deepens into an intuitive training. And then finally it becomes an experiential training. If you pick up a good book on the Dharma and you sit with that book for 25 minutes and you discover what impermanence means and selflessness means and the world, the nature of reality is, and you're studying, you're becoming familiar with wisdom. You're becoming acquainted with your original nature, with the way things are. It's a good meditation to do. We should train together. We should read, we should have classes, we should disseminate these texts, and we should become familiar with them and internalize them. And then we should really rub and debate them in our mind. Is it true that everything's permanent? Am I really going to die? Have I been living a nightmare story? Is it possible that I'm more than that? Have I ever had moments of clarity? Every list that I can name of all the qualities I think are, have I ever had opposite qualities? Is it true that there's no such thing as a fixed permanent self? We debate it and dig at it. Then you sit down, you meditate on it, you let that process get into your guts until you become so convinced that the story you've been holding on just begins to loosen. Then you have moments of what called freedom. You look at the biographies of all kinds of saints who have had open moments, aha moments. Forget the saints. You yourself may have had a moment of dissolving. Maybe during nice music, maybe during a sports activity, maybe during lovemaking, maybe having a child, maybe connecting with a child, maybe connecting with a loved one. You have lost yourself in that moment. Everybody has had that. In that moment, you're not the you anymore. You are the other. You are the beloved. You're outside of yourself. You've lost yourself in the moment. That Michael Jordan moment, flow moment. There's no you there. There's no story there. There's no I can't there. There's no I'm non-lovable there. There's no terror there. There's just the moment. And that's an awakening. And then it disappears, and you return to your neurobiological conditioning, and then you freak out and you go, oh, I'll never have that again, or how do I get that again, and oh my God. And the story comes back. So the wisdom teaching is a reminder of your openness. It begins as an analysis, and then it deepens into an intuitive experiential process. The second training is meditative. How do you hold your mind on that truth? Right now, we're all talking about training the mind to hold it on awareness itself, on the breath and the nostril. It's just a training. That one day we'll be able to marshal our awareness and hold it on our open nature. That's the optimal way of combining wisdom and meditation together. You want to have a sustained, concentrated, fixed experience, non-dual experience of your open nature. The breath meditation is a training wheel so that you can get the skill to do it. The final training is called the training in ethics or lifestyle. How are we going to adopt new behaviors, coping strategies, ways of relating, ways of speaking, ways of interacting that actually facilitate the moments of open, natural connectivity? Rather than what we have right now, which only reinforces scarcity, fear, shame, self-centeredness. Right? Think about most of what we do. We just reinforce the trauma. We just reinforce the stress. We just reinforce the self-alienation. Me, 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 me. Oh my God, there isn't enough. How do I grab? How do I get? Ethical lifestyle is an indispensable training. How to actually relate to ourselves and others with love, dignity, integrity, fairness, justice. How do we decondition the violence? Just take an inventory in your own life right now, how much violence occupies your mind. And it's so insidious. Maybe you don't want to pick up a pipe bomb or a gun, but look deeply how much violence is there, how much negativity is there, how much hostility is there, self-directed upmost. How do we adopt a different lifestyle in which we are practicing love, compassion? First with ourselves, then beginning to spread it out. How do we practice noble exchange with our speech, fair deeds with other people, kindness with other people? How do we do that? We don't have that because that's totally missing in a capitalistic environment. We don't even want to use the word ethics, really. Ethics is like, it's an impingement on our human rights. Don't tell me what to do with my ethics. But it's an indispensable spiritual force, because what we do does what? It seeds how we perceive reality. So you have open awareness of who you really are. You have a mind that's been trained to be able to sustain its concentration and a body that remains calm. And then you have ethical lifestyle that respects the integrity of your interconnectivity with other beings. And that begins to shape your perception in future moments. And that's the Four Noble Truths. And see, that, you can't practice meditation without that kind of basic understanding. And what I'm doing here is just introducing it very, very quickly. But I hope for people that are brand new, that are thinking about taking up a meditation practice, that if you see that if a meditation practice isn't situated on top of the Four Noble Truths, on top of a coherent, sophisticated psychology about how to intervene in your own mind and body process, then you won't really have the change that you want or expect from your meditation practice. Meditation practice alone isn't going to cut it. Changing your life, knowing who you are, and developing the tools of skills of presence of mind together will change your life. That's the recommendation. Okay?